Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with founder and president of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. I'm Stephanie Griffin. For individuals who have already laid a strong financial foundation and are close or into retirement and maybe need a strategy to help structure your assets, give Statler Financial a call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. How are you today, Philip? Are you doing well?
Hey, doing well, Stephanie. I had a little downtime week before last and excited about that and got to cruise around a little bit and, always enjoy getting away and just getting a little downtime. And we've built a couple of those in for the summer. I think in June, we'll have another week that we're out. And towards the end of July, we'll take a couple weeks and do a road trip, July and August. So, nice. Yeah, nice to kind of get out. Yes. And get some downtime. And even when I'm out, I'm still working. I mean,
I'm not surprised.
I have my laptop with me. Sometimes we have to update portfolios while I'm traveling. Sometimes I have to talk with clients, which is not a big deal. We build time in for that. And so it's important, right? That we need our downtime, but we also need to make sure we stay connected and we can accomplish both that way.
I love that. You've got a great work ethic. So that's what we want in a financial advisor for sure. Great work ethic. So today in this segment, we are talking about 5 important mistakes that can impact your future. So today, Philip Statler, he joins us as you know, and we're going to outline the obstacles and explain how to avoid them. Philip, what is the 5th mistake out of the 5? We're going to start with number 5. What is the 5th mistake?
So mistake number 5 is really underestimating healthcare costs. And many people fail to account for rising medical expenses, insurance premiums, prescription medications. You got to prepare for these things. And I know that one of the things that I've seen is that the cost of Medicare supplement insurance can increase substantially the older you get. I mean, it's kind of like a lost leader, right? You get in and maybe it's only $160 a month when you start at age 65. But I talk to clients that are like in their mid 70s and they're paying $350 for almost $400.
That's terrible.
For a Medicare supplement, that's only paying 80. It's only paying 20% of whatever the bill is. But it is something. It does continue to go up along with other healthcare issues, and retirees have Medicare Part D, which is prescription coverage, but then you got to play the game of, is my drug covered under this insurance company's plan, or do I have to change to a different insurance carrier? It's just, it's kind of a shell game when it comes to the prescription drug plans.
It's too bad they don't make that when you sign up to have that be your cost throughout the rest of your life. That would be convenient. That'd be nice.
That would be nice.
No price gouges for sure. So what is mistake number 4, Philip, when we're talking about mistakes to avoid when planning for retirement? What is number 4?
So number 4 is failing to diversify your investments. Relying on a single asset or investment type can really expose you to some unnecessary risk. A diversified portfolio helps reduce volatility and preserves your savings over the long term. And I look at that diversification kind of in two segments, right? The first segment is, how much risk do you have in terms of safety versus risk, right? That's the first area. And a lot of people will use the rule of 100, their age minus 100. That's kind of what they should have at risk. That's a good estimation, but that could be plus or minus 10 or 15%, depending upon your risk tolerance and what you need to be looking at from a risk perspective. But But yes, too many people do not switch. Once they retire, they keep doing the same thing they were doing before they retired, and that can be detrimental.
Yikes. Some great advice. We appreciate that. So, you are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show, and we're talking about mistakes to avoid. That's a key word there. Avoid this when planning for retirement. Philip, what is mistake number 3?
So, mistake number 3 is accessing retirement savings too early. Early withdrawals not only incur penalties if you're not 59 and a half, but also can reduce the amount you have growing for the future. You got to be careful and consider that impact before touching those funds. I mean, I'm sitting here, here recently. I've had a couple younger guys that are, they've been saving in their simple IRAs and doing a good job of saving. And all of a sudden, I guess some emergency comes up and they need money, and that's where they're taking it from. And so they're really depleting their whole retirement account. That means they're going to have to start all over again.
That's terrible.
And that's those guys, and they're not even in their 40s yet, right? So, and think about those people that are in their, mid 50s, and they take money out. They have to pay a 10% penalty. They have to pay, federal income tax. If they live in a state that has the income tax, they got to pay state income tax on it. So, it's a big number that you lose when you take that money out before you're 59 and a half. And I would encourage people to even go longer than that, obviously, right? Because Social Security doesn't kick in until 62. Some people that makes sense, but not everybody. And so we want to make sure that we are doing what's best for down the road in retirement. So look, folks, one of the things that's important when we head into retirement is having a plan. If you listen to our show any at all, you know that statistically, less than 30% of the folks out there actually have a written retirement income plan in place. And that reduces our confidence when it comes to retiring. That's why I developed the Core Retirement Design to help people design that retirement they always dreamed of. Give us a call right now and let's start that process for you so that you are comfortable heading into retirement. The number to call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
And you can also go to statlerfinancial.com and find out what Philip and his team are all about. We are talking about mistakes to avoid when planning for retirement. A lot of important information here from Philip Statler of Statler Financial. And you are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show with founder and president of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. Philip, give us number 2 when we talk about the mistakes to avoid.
So mistake number 2 is not establishing a clear retirement budget. So think about it. Without a detailed plan of your expected income and expenses, it's easy to overspend, which then leads to quickly depleting your savings. So financial planning, retirement planning ensures that you stay on track and that you don't overspend. But that takes place because folks sit down and create a realistic budget. And I know that's not anything that anybody wants to do. I hate that. I'm the same way. I hate doing it. But it is important, especially when it comes to this part of your life, because you can't just say, I'll work an extra shift or I'll do overtime because you're retired. You're not working at all unless, well, I guess you could go back to work, right? I mean, that would be the other option.
Right.
And that kind of defeats the purpose of retiring, right, Stephanie?
Exactly.
So let's get that budget put together and let's make sure we have a realistic budget in place heading into retirement.
Good insight. We appreciate that, Philip. And what if people practice that before they actually retire? I mean, maybe go a month or 2 months. Have you had people try that before, Philip, trying to do a budget?
That would be a really good idea. I think I have had a couple people that have put together a budget and have, tried to play around with it 6 months before they get ready to retire,
right,
and tweak it. And so it's definitely a good idea to try.
Now we are going to talk about the number 1 mistake to avoid. What is that, Philip?
So mistake number 1, is delaying your savings. The earlier you begin, the more time your money has to grow. Compound interest can significantly amplify your savings. But time is the key factor. That is the factor that makes it work. I remember running illustrations back. If you started putting $25 a month away when you were 18 years old, what you would have had by the time you were 65 if you consistently did that month in and month out. It's the power of compounding that makes the difference. So for those younger folks out there, start now. Put money away. Take advantage of any retirement planning issues you have, 401ks, simple IRAs, 403bs, whatever you've got that you can add to on a consistent basis. The earlier you start, the better off you'll be.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you,
want to start early.
Maybe grandparents could start something like this. I know my dad, for both of our boys, he has started a plan for the boys just to get them going on things. So it does help. It really does. Do you have any final thoughts to share with us about this?
Well, I think that retirement isn't just about finances. I mean, we talk a lot about that here on the show, but it's about building confidence and fulfilling the future, right? Doing the things you want to do and enjoying retirement. Avoiding these mistakes is important, but so is having a comprehensive plan in place. We're here to help individuals create strategies tailored to their lives and their goals, not their neighbors, not the guy next door, but for them specifically to make sure that they have the retirement they always dreamed of. Folks, listen, it is, sometimes it can be an undaunting task to do, but it's really not that difficult. It's a phone call and then a process. That will get you to the retirement you always dreamed of. Give us a call now to start that process. 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. I'd love to spend some time with you to make sure that you can have the retirement you always dreamed of.
So if you are 5 to 10 years away from retirement, or you just got into retirement and like to see maybe what you're looking at when it comes to your retirement savings, call Philip Statler at 863-877-1188. And the Statler Financial Radio Show will be right back. Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is the founder and president of Statler Financial Services. Thank you for listening today. We appreciate that. Now, I've got a startling fact for you. Running out of money is the number one retirement fear for 58% of Americans across all generations, which is not an irrational fear. There's people living in their 90s and beyond, and your retirement could last 30 years or more. That's quite a while. 3 decades of groceries, healthcare costs, and life to fund without a paycheck. Philip, let's tackle this head on. What makes the risk of outliving your money so real in today's world? And probably more importantly, what can you do about it?
Well, Stephanie, I think if we look at the whole scenario about the fear of outliving money, it is true. It is a true fear. The people worry about that all the time. Even the people that have a lot of money worry about that one thing. So I think it's because longevity has become the foremost challenge out there. Just to give you a statistic, couples at age 65 have a 50% chance one of them lives to age 93. I know in my life, my parents are both still living. My dad's 88. My mom's 83.
Wow. Yeah.
My grandmother on my dad's side, she lived to be 100. My grandfather on my mom's side lived to be 90. I mean, there's a lot of longevity in the Statler side of the family. I mean, I got a lot here.
You better plan for a long life.
Exactly. So I think that as people live longer, it becomes a challenge. And so the new normal seems to be that we have this stubborn inflation. Folks don't have pensions, and we've still got taxes to pay. Unlike my parents who, have a pension, a lot of folks today, that's not going to be the case. They're not going to have a pension. And then so people often underestimate life expectancy. And so their planning reflects that. And that can be difficult. I mean, I meet with people all the time that say, my health is an issue. My brother didn't live past, 55. My dad didn't live past 68. So because of those things, I don't think I'm going to live very long. And so they underestimate how long they'll actually end up living. And so I think you have to plan for 30 plus years in retirement. And to do that, it requires some fundamental shift in our thinking. And that's really what we try to help folks do.
Let's talk about Social Security. Everyone seems to say delay until 70 for the maximum benefit, but I'm hearing that might not always be the right advice. What factors should people really consider when deciding when to claim?
So first, let's be real clear here. 70 gives you the maximum benefit, but that doesn't mean it's right for you. There's things we need to look at. I mean, you're right. Each year you delay past full retirement, which is 67 for most of us now. It's an 8% increase for every year you wait. So if you wait to 70, that's a 24% increase. I mean, nothing to sneeze at, right? And so that's one thing to consider. But you also have to look at health status, family longevity, need for income now, right? A lot of times health isn't good. So they need to get out of the workforce that they're in now. And the only way to do that is to start taking Social Security. Maybe it's not as early as 62. Maybe they're 65 and qualify for Medicare. That's a good time to kind of make that transition for a lot of folks. So that's an option. But you still have to look at things. Is that really the right time and the right way to do it? Delaying can help protect the surviving spouse's income. And I don't think enough people really focus on that when they're looking at retirement planning and Social Security planning, using it more as a death benefit for your surviving spouse, and then coordinating Social Security timing with retirement plan withdrawals. There's some things there that really can help you factor in when's the best time to start taking your Social Security.
If you have questions about any of this, call Philip 863-877-1188, 863-877-1188, and he'd be happy to sit down and talk to you about any questions you might have. You were talking about withdrawal strategies, Philip. The old 4% rule that everybody talks about, is that still relevant? And with people living longer and markets being unpredictable, how should retirees think about safely tapping their nest egg?
Well, there's been some different studies that have been done over the years, especially since 2008, when we had that last super huge bear market. And so things that have come out is that the 4% rule could be too rigid for modern retirement. It may be okay. It may not be enough. It may be too much. It depends on circumstances and which study you really go look at. Because we've got what I call spending phases, right? When folks first retire, Stephanie, we call that the go-go stage, right?
Right.
We're just retired. We're excited. We've got our bucket list of things we want to get done. And so we're going, we go buy the new bass boat so we can go fishing all the time, or we go buy the RV because we're going to go from here to California and back. There's just a lot of things there. Then there's a slow go. That's kind of the next, 10, 15 years, somewhere in there, where you slow down, but you still want to go. You're still excited. You still want to go see grandkids and kids and those type of things. You want to do that cruise a couple times a year, but you slow down. It's not quite as exciting as it was. And then you got the no-go years. And that's just when, as one of my longtime clients had told me a long time ago in the tax business, when I would say, look, you got all this money. Why aren't you going someplace? Why aren't you doing things? He said, he's like 85 years old. He said, Philip, do you know what it takes for me to go? I got to pack up all my medications. I got all this stuff I got to pack up to go. And it just messes up my whole routine. It's not worth it anymore. And so that's the no-go years. So I think all of that to say that we need a holistic, risk-based guardrails approach to those type of things. That's just another way of determining what our income could be and how much we can start to take. And I think the other thing we need to kind of plan for or look at is the need for lifetime income planning. We need to have a plan in place. And Stephanie, that's why I created the Core Retirement Design, to help people do that. And one of those segments in that whole planning process is the income plan. And the income plan lays out for everyone the income they could get year over year for the rest of their life, and making sure that they don't run out of money. Folks, to get started is easy. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
You have covered so many critical pieces on the show today. For somebody who's thinking this feels overwhelming, I don't even know where to start, how do you help people create a comprehensive retirement plan that addresses all these moving parts?
Well, we start with some nuts and bolts, right? We start with what is our risk? What risk should you have based on your current circumstances, your risk tolerance, how long you have to retire, how old are you, all of those things. And then we measure that against your current portfolio. And typically, we find they just don't quite match up. A matter of fact, the other day, I was sitting with a guy that he wants to retire in the next 5 years. And we looked at his portfolio, and his portfolio is in the mid to high 70s. Well, his portfolio needs to be in about the mid 50s. So he's got too much risk in his portfolio for what he's trying to accomplish. And so we're able to help tweak that and get him on track for that retirement that he always dreamed of. And so I think that's the thing, is that we have to look at those things, and our Core Retirement Design does that. We look at risk, and we make sure that the risk we take matches up with where we should be. We look at that tax planning process and making sure that we have some kind of tax plan in place, and we know where those tax dips may be that we don't want to have to experience. And then lastly, we put together the infamous income plan. You need to have an income plan in place, folks. And we've talked about all the time, less than 30% of the folks out there actually have one. Let's take the time. Let's put together an income plan so that you know where you are and that your money's going to last throughout your lifetime, given the income you're going to need. It's that simple, folks. It starts, though, with you and I on the phone for 30 minutes, answering your questions, making sure that we know where you are, and making sure that what you've done so far is going to get you where you want to go. What's the end goal? Can we get you there? It's a simple to start. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. I'd love to sit down with you, get you started on our Core Retirement Design. That number one more time, 863-877-1188.
All right, stay tuned. In our next segment, we'll explore the flip side of running out of money in retirement, dying with too much of it. Why some retirees end up leaving far more than they intended and what you can do about it. The Statler Financial Radio Show will be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with founder and president Philip Statler right here in Sebring, Florida. Beautiful Sebring. So definitely give Philip a call if you have any questions about anything retirement. Here's something that might surprise you. Having enough money isn't always the problem. Many retirees have saved successfully their entire lives. They built up a substantial nest egg, and then they can't bring themselves to spend it. The psychological shift from building to using money. Philip, I can't even imagine having that problem. What are some of the problems that can arise when retirees don't make the adjustments needed when transitioning into retirement?
Well, I think that a lot of it is, let's look at it as a kind of a mountain climbing, right? We have to have different strategies for climbing up the mountain versus coming down the mountain. Stephanie, maybe you don't, but more people have accidents and die coming down the mountain than going up the mountain.
I didn't know that.
In mountain climbing accidents, yes, that is a fact. And so, but it is truly two different strategies when we look at investing. There's a strategy for growing your portfolio and accumulating money for retirement. That is a strategy. To switch buckets, to switch gears, once you retire, it is a different strategy, 180-degree turn in the way you invest and plan for retirement once you're there. And folks, there's a lot of people that never make that change. They keep going and they keep living like they're working. That is one of the biggest mistakes I see, is they don't change the way they approach their investments, or at least their advisor doesn't change the way they approach their investments. And they may say they're making a little bit less risky, but when you look at the numbers, it just doesn't add up right. The other thing that we run into is what we call the sequence of return risk. We don't know when the market's going to drop. We've had a pretty good run here over the last 5 to 10 years. We don't know when that's going to flip, and we start having losses instead of gains on a regular basis. So, sequence of return risk is a big deal, and we need to plan for it. Need for, again, a written spend down plan. And that's hard for people. I've got clients all the time that come in and they've got plenty of money, but it is so hard for them to spend it. I had a client that came in and she said, Philip, I need a new car. You got plenty. Go pick whatever you want. Whatever you want, go get it. and she gets a little, I mean, I say little, a little Toyota Camry, which they're nice vehicles. And they do what they're supposed to do. Don't get me wrong, but she couldn't get herself to look at, a Lexus or a BMW or a Mercedes. That just wasn't in her wheelhouse because she didn't want to spend that much money, even though she had way more than she was ever going to use in her lifetime. So, that sounds like a simple, example, but I see it day in and day out, not just cars, but houses or, taking a trip or taking my grandkids on a trip. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that really applies to. But having something there so that we are spending the money we have. We don't want to overspend, but we don't want to underspend either, right?
Sure, there's kind of a happy medium in
That's
there.
right.
Yeah.
And so, some people, they have this die with zero philosophy, which is great, right? I'm going to die with nothing left. Well, it's kind of hard to plan that out exactly, because you don't want to miss right on the other side. You don't want to run out too soon. But you end up with money left over. And when it happens, you missed out on some experiences that you could have had.
Yeah, go have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what retirement's about, enjoying the life that you worked hard to get to.
Now, certainly market volatility can hit retirees especially hard. It's one thing to watch your portfolio drop when you're still working and adding money. Entirely different thing when you're withdrawing from those declining amounts or accounts, rather, to pay for groceries. So how do retirees overcome the fear of selling investments when markets are down?
Well, it comes down to really a couple things. One is we need to understand your risk tolerance before the crisis hits. I go back to 2008. I've got several examples there that I love to talk about. One is the moderate investor back then thought, as I say, they thought they were moderate investors, right? Until their portfolio was down 15 to 20%. I mean, that's what the moderate investor lost in 2008. And they realized they really weren't a moderate investor. They were more of a conservative investor. And so you want to find that out before the crisis hits and not after. And so we do that by stress testing, various scenarios in various portfolios to see how that's all gonna land. Having a written plan in place and following it helps with the emotional decision-making process. And then creating buckets, right? We have a bucket for spending, near term, midterm, and then we have a long-term growth bucket. Helps out as well. One example I like to always use when we talk about this exact scenario is a retired doctor that came to see me, and a very wealthy man, and he was taking out back at the beginning before the crash, he was taking out about 5%, which honestly was a little rich for what he should have been taking out of his portfolio. But from, I think it was January of 2008 to December of 2008, he did not make any adjustments to the amount of money he was taking out of his portfolio.
Mm-hmm. What happened?
Well, his portfolio was cut in half in a year.
Oh my gosh.
So that's how losses, when you're taking money out, can really and truly explode. And so we want to have a plan for that. And that calls for some diversification between risk and safety. And that's really my point to that story. And that's really, I was able to help them. They didn't become clients of mine, but I was still able to help them see that they were taking too much money out of their portfolio. And he made some adjustments, which helped preserve their portfolio for the long term.
You can call Philip at Statler Financial, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. And how scary to have that cut in half. That is frightening. Doesn't all this even become more difficult, Philip, for married couples where they have to also plan for the future needs of surviving spouse?
It really does, Stephanie. The problem is, and that goes back to Social Security strategies in place. And one of the things that I look at when I'm doing Social Security planning for folks is optimizing the survivor benefit so that the remaining spouse can get the most Social Security benefit they can. A lot of times people have what we call single life pensions. And so that can be a shock when that person dies, because that money dies too. And so that can be devastating to a couple, to the surviving spouse, not to have that money there. And so we ask that question, right, when we're doing our planning process. Does your pension have survivor benefits? And what are those survivor benefits? Because it may not be 100%. It may only be 50%. Or maybe zero, right? So we want to know what that is to help in the planning process. And you have to kind of model both scenarios, right? Because you don't know who's going to die. And maybe neither one of them die for a long time. Maybe they make it into their, late 80s or early 90s together. So there's all kinds of scenarios you have to run to determine how to develop that income plan to best not only take care of the couple, but then take care of the surviving spouse at the same time. So there are, some things you have to do to make sure that happens right. And then looking at joint survivor annuities, folks, that can help protect reducing the income. So that's an area that can help as well when it comes to that kinds of things. Folks, listen, it all comes down to planning. And that's what our core retirement design helps you to do. It helps you put a plan in place to make sure that the risk for you is where it needs to be, that we've got taxes to the least amount possible, and that we have an income plan in place so we know we won't run out of money in retirement. Give me a call. I'd love to spend 30 minutes with you on the phone. 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
There is a lot to consider, so don't be left in the dark and ask a lot of questions. Philip is there for you to do that and help answer them. 863-877-1188. You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. Philip, what advice do you have for listeners who are maybe 5 to 10 years away from retirement and they realize they need to get serious about planning?
Well, and that's, that 5-year mark, you really do need to get serious about planning. 10 years isn't too early to start laying some foundations of what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. But you really do need to take that time and start putting a plan in place. Do I have enough to retire? At my current rate of savings, will I have enough to retire? Will it will it meet my cash flow need? That's the big question. And it's one of the questions you need to ask yourself, and you need to have a plan in place that's going to get you there. And that 5-year mark, folks, that's where you really need to get serious about planning. 10 years, it's nice if you can start that early, because especially if you're behind the curve, now here's how much money I really need to be saving to make sure that I can retire in 10 years. You don't want to get caught off guard and wait to that 5-year mark and figure out, oh, I'm really behind. That may be too late. You might have to work. You may have to work a little longer, Stephanie, and that's people don't want to do that.
No, not at all. And if you're 25 listening now, start saving now for sure.
Start now. I mean, start putting $25, $50 out of every paycheck. Start just putting it away and don't touch it. And that's a big deal. If you can put it in Roth IRAs, that's the way to do it. And put all you can in the Roth till you cap out, and then start putting it into a non-retirement account.
For a free visit, make sure you text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. And get that free consultation with Philip Statler. The Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm Stephanie Griffin, and recent data shows confidence in retirement has plummeted, with 39% of American workers reporting they do not feel confident in their retirement. Philip Statler from Statler Financial Services, he is here to help us understand how this could have happened and hopefully how we can help close the gap. So if you want to take steps toward being confident in your retirement, reach out to the team at Statler Financial today. All you have to do is call Philip and the team at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Or you can go online to statlerfinancial.com. So, Philip, what is driving this sudden uncertainty in retirement, do you think?
Well, I think there's a couple things, Stephanie, that really have made that an issue, right? I think the rising daily living cost. I mean, it's not cheap anymore. Inflation that we've had over the last 3 or 4 years now, maybe even 5 years, the inflation that we've seen since COVID has really hit retirees hard. And so I think that's given a lot of uncertainty to those folks that are preparing to retire now. If it's been that bad the last 4 or 5 years, what's it going to be the next 4 or 5 years, right? So they look at that. I think another thing is you can't depend on the same economic conditions that our parents did. Sure. It's a totally different time span. My dad's been retired now for, probably 20 years.
Wow.
Maybe 25 years. Probably 25 years now. He's going to be 89 this year. So probably 25 years or more he's been retired. And economic conditions have changed from when he first retired to where they are today. And then I think it's about having a real plan. And a real plan is not something you put together and then forget it and put it down. It's something that you pick up and look at least once a year and gauge, how are you doing? Am I on track? Am I still doing okay? Do I need to make changes? And maybe that's really what's important as you look at planning for retirement.
So Medicare, let's talk about that a little bit. That's another area where the numbers show a lack of confidence. What is your reaction to that?
Well, it's the largest hidden expense. Mm-hmm. Think about it. Medicare goes up every year. Everybody's Medicare gap, Medicare gap policy goes up every year. So you got more and more people looking at Medicare Advantage plans, which, my opinion only, is not necessarily the best place to go.
Right.
But I understand for economic reasons, sometimes that's what people have to do. And so I understand that that's an issue, right? If we can get rid of some of this fraud, I was listening to somebody the other day. It says, look, if we could reduce this fraud, which we know is billions and billions of dollars,
yes, we
could easily get, solidify another 10 years out of Medicare. And that would be huge. So I think the other thing is when plans unexpectedly reduce coverage, retirees are forced to pay higher out-of-pocket expenses than they anticipated, which that then impacts their savings and their retirement income. Just think about an unexpected medical emergency can derail your retirement. I talk to clients sometimes to think about, well, maybe we just won't get Medicare insurance. We'll just do with Medicare. and I just want to pull my hair out, right? Just no, it just takes one
Sure.
little thing, and the 20% that you have to pay after Medicare could be astronomical. So I think building that healthcare inflation into your financial plan, it helps a lot, right? That we know that it's going to go up, and we just got to plan for it.
You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. I'm Stephanie Griffin, and we do need to touch on Social Security, Philip. If Congress doesn't act, there could be an automatic benefit cut up to 24% by 2032. That's pretty big percentage. How can people plan for their future with that kind of threat hanging over them?
Well, I think Social Security is important, no doubt about it. But you need other income too, right?
Sure.
Remember, Social Security was never meant to be 100% of our income. It was meant to be a leg on a three-legged stool. And so, it's meant to be 20 to 30% of your retirement income. And so I think there's some things there that we need to talk about, but you need to stress test your income plan. What would your income look like if Social Security were reduced? You got to kind of run those what if scenarios. And then, you have to create some independent, reliable income streams. That's on you. You've got to be proactive and really look at how can I create some income? If you're lying awake worrying about inflation, Medicare costs, or Social Security cuts, then it's time to stop worrying and start planning. If you have at least $500,000 saved up for retirement, call my team at Statler Financial right now. We'll review your strategy, stress test your income against those looming Social Security cuts that could happen, and help put you in the driver's seat of all those things. Call us right now at 863-877-1188. That number again, 863-877-1188.
So we are talking with Philip Statler. He is the founder and president of the Statler Financial Services. We are talking today about declining confidence Americans have in their retirement. Philip, the data shows that roughly a third of retirees now expect to work at least somewhat in retirement. Is that the only solution, you think? Nobody wants to work after they retire, really. Unless to keep busy.
You think so? Unless to stay busy. That's right. You don't want to have to work.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of people, they want to because they like the interaction, So here's the deal, Stephanie. Work in retirement, it should be a personal choice. It shouldn't be, again, because you have to. It should be, I want the interaction with people. I like doing whatever it is I'm doing. That should be the reason. So it's all about income, though, without a job. And it has to come from somewhere else. And that's the key, is putting together that income plan. Maximizing savings and optimizing your tax strategy is huge. Folks forget that the tax man stands ready to take his part every time you take money out of your retirement accounts. And so the goal of our planning process is to make employment optional. That's the key. If you want to work, fine, but don't do it because you have to. Do it because you just enjoy doing whatever it is you're doing, Stephanie.
Right, exactly. Or go do a charity work or something. But yeah, you don't want to have to, for sure. So what could listeners do today to help make sure they can retire with confidence?
Well, I think if you're not retired yet, maximize those contributions to your 401ks or your IRAs or your simple plans, whatever it is that you have available to contribute to. Do the max it out every year. Shift your strategy from hoping for market growth to actively help protect your principal. And there's a difference, and there needs to be a balance between those two, right? We need growth, but you also have to protect what you already have. So there's this balance between the two that you need to come to grips with and look at. It is a different philosophy when you hit retirement than when you're working. And too many people don't make that change heading into retirement. Maintain your physical health. That's a huge deal. If you don't have medical expenses, we talked about earlier, That goes a long way in preserving your retirement savings. So protecting your body helps protect your wallet. And then partner with an advisor. An advisor is here to guide you through the process and help put that plan together and make sure you stay on track for that retirement you always dreamed of. And I know that sometimes it's not always the way it works, but in our firm, we're here as a retirement advisor. And a lot of times, Stephanie, that's more than just the money management or the investment selection. It's encompasses a lot more than just your investments. It's your retirement planning. And it's more than just the financial part of it, Stephanie.
Right. And you're also a psychologist and a marriage counselor. And so how can the team at Statler Financial, how can you guys help people?
Stephanie, at the end of the day, a lack of confidence means that there's been a lack of planning. And planning is exactly what we do here at Statler Financial. You deserve to feel confident about your retirement. You've earned it. Don't let the fear of Medicare changes or Social Security cuts rob you of retirement you've worked decades to build. If you have $500,000 or more saved, call my team today and schedule a visit so we can walk you through ways to start helping protect that wealth, ways to help you find, to generate lasting income, and help you create a strategy to last the rest of your life. It comes down to just that, having a written retirement income plan in place and making sure that we look at it on at least an annual basis, if not more often, to make sure that you are on track and there's no adjustments that need to be made. To start the process, to take charge of your retirement, call right now, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
And you can also go to statlerfinancial.com. Now we have about a minute left, Philip. Tell us what people can expect when they get that appointment by calling that number and coming into your office.
Absolutely, Stephanie. So what we do is it's a process, right? We want to know what your goals are, what your dreams are, what you want to do in retirement. And then we'll look at where you are right now and start the process of, one, analyzing the risks that you currently have in your portfolio. Have you made that adjustment that I talked about earlier from all risk, like before you retired, or have you adjusted so some of it's safe, some of it's at risk? That's the first step we're going to take. Second, we're going to look at taxes. How can we minimize your taxes, not this year, next year, but over your entire retirement lifetime? And then lastly, we're going to put together that retirement income plan to make sure that you know how much income you have to draw from on a monthly basis. It's that simple.
A lot of great insight. Thank you so much, Philip, for today's show. And we will be back next week for more of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Have a great one.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.